upholding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy should itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
We've signed a climate convention on the importance of economic instruments and free markets. Were included in this mammoth Agenda 21 document and the Rio Declaration. Let me be clear on one fundamental point. The United States fully intends to be the world's preeminent leader in protecting the global environment.
Coming up, Technocracy News. And good day. This is Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. Today is May 2nd, 2019. This is a beautiful day to take another look at Technocracy, and welcome especially to all the astute watchers of Technocracy from all over the world. This is an exciting thing that we do indeed have listeners outside of the United States who are very intent on discovering what Technocracy is all about because they see it happening all around them. Our first story today is going to be a look at reality. Have you ever felt like you're living in the movie The Matrix? You remember The Matrix, where the souls of people, the virtual reality of people were wandering around thinking they were real, when in fact their bodies were encased in some grotesque machine that was maintaining life support and controlling their minds. Well, this may be closer to reality than you think, because augmented reality is coming upon us at breakneck speed. This is not a direct manifestation, by the way, of the technocracy doctrine from the 1930s, but it definitely exhibits the technocrat mindset that we discussed recently that has to do with using advanced technology to alter reality of individuals. This is exactly what augmented reality intends to do. This is a discipline, a new science, that's kind of difficult to get your head wrapped around, but I would encourage you to read the article and find out what it's all about. This is a sub-application of artificial intelligence for sure, but when you put the goggles on, you are immersed into a world that looks so real that you cannot tell the difference whether it is or not. And you'll see things and you'll experience things within the framework of the augmented reality. And you might realize pretty quickly that, whoa, this is our artificial reality. Or you might just conclude, I can't tell if it was real or not. Maybe it was. Maybe it was just the computer fooling me with images that are so real that it looked real. Well, this is a topic that needs to be greatly discussed, and I am interested in the company that put this article up. The CEO of the augmented reality company is very wary about data privacy, and I'm glad to see that in a software developer, that he's actually concerned about privacy of individuals' data and whether or not the thing should just be loaded into the cloud nilly-willy for anybody to get their hands on it. So at least that's a good thing, but nevertheless, this is a kind of a disturbing technology, and like it or not, it's coming. We just need to figure out what to do with it when it gets here. The next article is also a good one, a completely different topic. But the topic is, my title is, Technocracy is the Real Threat, Not Nationalism. It was written by James Paulos, who's associated with Claremont. And this is a rather scholarly article, I might add, that makes the proposition that it isn't nationalism that's the real the threat in America, which of course globalists are saying that is the big threat to the world, is nationalism, especially our nationalism, and especially our president, who is a nationalist. And so all over the world, we've been painted as returning to the Stone Age because the American people are concerned about their own country, and they equate that to nationalism. Well, nationalism is not really the threat to America. It's not the problem in the world, even. The problem in the world is technocracy. I've been saying that for years now, trying to get people to listen and educate more people as to what the real threat is. Well, James Paulos has figured this out, that technocracy is the real threat, and it's the rule of society by a technocratic elite. This is exactly it. The science knows best, and if science says such and such, then you better do it. You better just toe the line and don't argue, because if you're not a scientist, then what do you know? How can you question their science? Well, we see this rising up, not only all around the country, but all around the world as well. So we've got some serious consideration to do, but it's really good to see a journalist write about this with a very sane and sound approach. So I encourage you to read the article. Technocracy is the real threat, not nationalism. And please do click through to the original story and read the rest of it, because it's all a good story. The next thing on the target here has to do, again, with China. And I'll leave China for last because I do get tired of talking about China, quite honestly. It's just something that needs to be talked about because it's so in your face. There's two kinds of people in America today, those who say China is a threat and those who say China is not a threat. Well, we can look at China from any type of political science view that you would choose. And you come up with the same argument that the previous story came up with, that technocracy is the real threat, not nationalism, not socialism, not communism, not ism, Marxism. Forget all the isms. Those are not the threats. The threat is technocracy, and China is a technocracy. That's why we keep writing about it, because we are, after all, Technocracy News and Trends. So what else would you expect that we'd write about? Well, the Western Chinese province of Xinjiang is predominantly Muslim. And by bringing this up as a real issue of technocracy, I'm not giving any type of approval, if you will, to Islam. But the fact is that province is primarily Islamic. And the Chinese officials do not like Islam. They don't like Muslims. But nevertheless, they are the subjects of the realm. And so they're taking exception with their religion and with their potential extremism. And they focused all of the technology that they have in the rest of the country on this relatively sparsely populated province in the western part of their nation. And they're using it to completely surveil the people. Now, when I talk about surveil the people, you just can't do this justice. They're monitoring every single thing that these people do. They're monitoring their energy consumption, not just with electricity, but also the gasoline they put in their car. They're monitoring their precise location everywhere they go through their smartphones and cameras and facial recognition and so on. That every conceivable move they make is being monitored. They're monitoring whether they go in the front door of their house or the back door of their house. Wow. This is electronic surveillance on a different level than anything we've ever considered before. A Human Rights Watch researcher, Maya Wang, the author of this particular report that's referenced in this article, notes that when a person's phone is turned off for a long time, it sends off an alarm. When a car's owner or a different person was filling up at a gas station, it's noted who it is. The question might be asked, why is somebody other than the car's owner filling up at the gas station? It goes on to say a person who avoided use of the front door would raise alarms, as would someone who avoided socializing with his or her neighbors or raised unusual amounts of money for a mosque. Wang's analysis found all kinds of stuff. All told, Wang found the Xinjiang database kept logs of 36 types of behavior seen as suspicious, and a total of 51 mobile apps that were blacklisted, including WhatsApp, Telegram, and virtual private networks. Yeah, they're clamped down, all right. She said the model could be a testing ground for the rest of China, where law enforcement authorities are currently building a national, quote, police cloud, close quote. This is not just about Xinjiang or even China, she said. It's about the world beyond and whether we human beings can continue to have freedom in a world of connected devices. It's a wake-up call, not just about China, but about every one of us. I could not agree more, by the way. And if they can do it to a group of arbitrarily picked religious people in China, it could be turned on any religious group, including Christians. In fact, we already know that China is already oppressing Christians. It's just that the Christian community is not primarily isolated in a single province, like the Muslims are in Xinjiang. When a government has a big gun like this, and they're demonstrated to be willing to point it at a particular people group, believe me, they can point the gun anywhere they want. And that goes for anybody else adopting the technocracy model in other parts of the world. And it is sweeping in the United States right now, too. We're not oppressing people groups or individual groups like this yet, but the technology is rising up around us, and it's being used with increasing frequency all over our country. Citizens understand this. Legislators understand it. I understand it. I expect you understand it. But nobody's doing anything to stop it. I suggest now is the time. I want to read a couple of paragraphs from my book, Technocracy Rising, the Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, that has to do with the total surveillance society. This is the conclusion to the chapter, The Total Surveillance Society, on page 176. Any engineer knows that you cannot control what you cannot monitor. Thus, technocracy requires an all-encompassing data collection and intelligence function in order to monitor and control the elements of society and economic activity. To a technocrat, there is no such thing as too much data. When collecting becomes an end in itself, participants quickly display symptoms of classical hoarding disorder as described by Mayo Clinic. This is a quote. A persistent difficulty discarding or parting with possessions because of a perceived need to save them. A person with hoarding disorder experiences distress at the thought of getting rid of the items. Excessive accumulation of items, regardless of actual value, occurs. Such is the state of today's total surveillance society, created to serve technocracy only, or even society at large. While this may seem completely irrational to you, it is perfectly rational to a technocrat. It is also noteworthy that the guardians of the technocrat chickens are the technocrat foxes themselves, and together they have successfully removed themselves from any effective oversight or control by Congress, state, or local officials, all of which have been completely ineffective at reining in their data vacuum juggernaut. Now, I would strongly suggest, if you haven't picked up a copy of Technocracy Rising or Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order, now would be a good time to do it, and even to buy extra copies to give away to people in your community that need to understand the onslaught of technocracy. If it's not us, who? If it's not now, when? Yeah, we need to get busy. Yes, indeed, Americans need to wake up and commit to taking action to put a stop to this craziness before it overwhelms us as well. I'm Patrick Wood for Technocracy News and Trends. Have a great day.